My name is Joe Kennison. I'm the class of 2005 here at St. Lawrence, and I'm the Director of Laurentian Engagement in the Alumni Office. We're excited to bring this format to you this evening with 6 great presenters that will speak for 9 minutes each. We have 2 faculty members, 2 staff members, and 2 members of the senior class. We have a few t-shirts to give away, and be sure to hang on to the raffle tickets that you got, as we'll be giving away a GoPro camera this evening, made possible by the Brewer Bookstore. I'd also like to say thank you to those of us joining at home who have logged on to our webcam. Thank you for being a part of this inaugural Laurentian Lightning Chat. You should be able to make the video larger, which you won't want to do when I'm on screen, but for our presenters, you'll be able to do that by dragging the bar, separating the PowerPoint presentation from the video to the right side of the screen. Hope you enjoy the show. All right, so the ground rules for tonight. Again, 6 presentations, 9 minutes each, no questions, and unless you're posting on Instagram or Twitter about how awesome this event is by using the hashtag L4L Week, please try to put your phones down for our speakers. Perhaps fittingly, you guys are able to sit back, relax, and learn. It's important to note that these chats have nothing to do with each other. These are the experience and the research and expertise of these particular Laurentians. They're not connected in any way. There won't be any tests or quizzes, and no, we won't have any time for questions and answers. I'm sure that they wouldn't mind emailing you if you have any questions for them. So let's get rolling with our first Laurentian Lightning Chat. Our first presenter is a member of the class of 2015, and if we gave out merit badges for activities and involvement at St. Lawrence, her vest would be full. A native of Hudson, Quebec, she's held several leadership positions on campus while majoring in economics and business. Presenting My Journey at St. Lawrence, please welcome Taylor Castator.
So my journey at St. Lawrence began on August 19th, 2011. I was driving down from Hudson, Quebec with my parents for international student orientation. I had left my house late. I got caught up at the border. I arrived to campus totally frazzled with absolutely no idea where I was supposed to be. So I'm desperately searching through my folders, trying to figure out where I'm supposed to meet up with my group. My parents are trying their best to hide their frustration that I clearly have no idea what I'm doing. They were doing a terrible job at it. And those butterflies that originally had seemed to indicate this anxious, excited feeling for college, which was totally normal, were now kind of turning against me, and I kind of felt like I might throw up. And that was the first and the last time that I questioned my decision to come to St. Lawrence. As Joe said, my name is Taylor Castator. I'm a senior economic business double major here at St. Lawrence. So they asked me to come here today and speak about the student experience, which was really flattering and really nice, but in my experience, these talks are usually given by some sort of expert, some sort of research to present on. And as wonderful as my experience at St. Lawrence has been, I really wouldn't call myself an expert. So I didn't know how I was going to stand up here and give any sort of advice. So I just decided not to do that. Sorry. So instead, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my journey, and hopefully everyone can take away something from it and what I've learned over the course of my time here. So when I came to St. Lawrence, I really didn't know what I was going to study, as is the case for most students. During my first year, I took my first economics class, intro to econ, and something just clicked for me. I really enjoyed the class. It was really challenging, but it was kind of the way that my brain worked, and it really worked for me, and I had this idea that, yeah, this is what I probably want to major in. Full disclosure, part of the reason I took that class was it seemed to be there was a lot of cute boys headed in that direction, and while I don't recommend making choices based on cute boys, in this one particular instance, it did work out for me, and I did end up loving economics. But despite my love of economics and all of the classes I've taken within that department, what I've really enjoyed is the opportunity to continue to take classes outside of that department. Some of my favorite classes have been in government, global studies, gender and sexuality studies, and the ability to look at one issue or one topic from multiple lenses has been kind of a quintessential liberal arts experience for me, as I'm sure it has been for most of you, and one that I've truly loved. I've also had some really wonderful extracurricular experiences here. And each one of them has taught me something different and shaped me in a different way. Whether it was being student body president, which turned out to be the single best professional development opportunity for a college undergrad, or whether it was being an orientation leader, which taught me so much about community and friendship, or whether it was being an admissions ambassador and being forced to kind of constantly reflect on my St. Lawrence experience because I was sharing it with the new prospective students. Or lastly, even most recently this year, being co-chair of the Senior Class Gift Committee, where I learned about what it means to give back to St. Lawrence and appreciate what I've received based on other people's generosity. Every single one of those experiences has been completely different and has shaped my experience in such a positive way. And they've all taught me something that I wouldn't have learned in the classroom. So I'm really grateful for having pursued those extracurricular opportunities. I was also lucky enough to study abroad in Shanghai, China the spring of my junior year. For those of you who are wondering, yes, I do speak Mandarin. Ni hao, wo jiao Taylor. So that's literally all I know, actually. So, and I probably butchered it. I'm sorry. But it actually took me a really long time to decide to go to China. I went through phases of wanting to go to different places. I wanted to go to Fiji for a while, and then I wanted to go to Turkey, and then India, and then Jordan. My mom loves these phases, by the way. She really appreciated that. So in the end, I decided on China, and it turned out to be one of the most amazing experiences. Not only did I have the opportunity to pursue my academic interest in this really unique location, but I was also given the opportunity to explore an entirely different culture. And that forced me to reflect on myself and my own culture and my own beliefs, and I truly grew so much as an individual during that experience. And I guess what I learned is it didn't really matter where I went, just that I went somewhere. Not to mention I have some pretty killer stories if you want to talk about chicken feed or getting hit by a moped or using squatter toilets. We can talk about that later. This past summer, I actually spent in New York City. I had an internship with a financial firm. If you haven't gathered it already, I was not the kid that came here with my own stock portfolio, and I did not read the Wall Street Journal every day. And apart from my dad trying to impart his love, or in my opinion, obsession with Jim Cramer, I literally had no experience with the market and really didn't think I wanted anything to do with them. It wasn't until I took a financial economics course that I actually realized it was pretty interesting, the investment process, and that I myself might actually be interested in that process. So even those things that you think you have absolutely no interest in, I found out that maybe you do if you just give it a try. Throughout this process of trying to write down my journey and cross off all those must-haves of a college experience and talk about all those important things, I realized the tremendous pressure there is to make the most of your St. Lawrence experience. You only have 4 years. 4 years to discover your passion, only 4 years to make lifetime friendships, 4 years to get involved, 4 years to give back. Well, I'm almost at the end of my 4 years. I hate to say it, but I'm really not done with any of those things. St. Lawrence was and is just the beginning of my journey. And so I guess if I do have any advice to give, it's to go on your own journey and just not to worry about all that pressure. A journey where you take advice, but you forge your own path, where you say yes to as many things as possible, but also aren't afraid to say no sometimes. A journey where you make mistakes, but you learn from them. And most importantly, a journey where you just enjoy the ride. If someone had gone on my exact path at St. Lawrence, they very well may have been totally miserable. The same way that if I had been in the OC and joined the crew team, really great organization, by the way, but if I had done it, though I may have not gained the 20 pounds I did during college, I certainly wouldn't be as happy as I am today. So while my journey may not have been perfect, it was my own, and I enjoyed it because of that. So I guess my imparting wisdom is what I've realized is there are no wrong decisions, even the ones that I wish I could take back or didn't turn out exactly the way that I had planned. They all became a part of my St. Lawrence experience. and they've all prepared me for what's going to come next, in the next chapter of my life. And so when I exit that metaphorical door, graduation in May, I'm not really leaving behind St. Lawrence. I will always carry St. Lawrence with me in the lessons that I've learned, in the memories that I've made, the friendships that I've formed. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm really only just beginning my lifetime journey as a Laurentian. Thank you.
Taylor's going to pass out a few shirts. Congratulations, Taylor. Thank you very much, and good luck after St. Lawrence. As she said, the Laurentian for Life being the theme, that journey is not complete. Our next presenter has worked in higher education since 1994, having earned a bachelor's in mathematics and a master's degree in instructional technology from SUNY Potsdam. He came to St. Lawrence in 2012 and has worked to guide St. Lawrence through the maze of digital needs in all branches of campus. In other words, if your internet's not working, blame him. Here to explain why, our Vice President for Libraries and Information Technology, Justin Sipher.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Taylor, great job kicking things off. It was a very personal story. Mine's not going to be personal. It's going to be a little geeky, but I'm going to make it fun and hopefully informative to you. And we're going to talk a little bit about Wi-Fi, something that everyone here is dependent on. You're using at this moment, whether even though Joe told you to put it in your pocket, and I'll explain that more. I really felt like I should have this talk be, I need Wi-Fi to text, Snapchat, Netflix, by the way, I need it now. So we're going to talk a little bit about Wi-Fi, but I'm going to step back first and remind us, for some of us in the room, it wasn't that long ago. For students, it was almost a lifetime ago, when if you needed to do something on a computer, you went to a desktop. Whether it was in your office, your home, in the library, in the classroom, maybe in your dorm room, you went to a desktop computer, you did your stuff, you worked on a paper, you did some research, you composed an email. But while we still have desktops, that's certainly not the primary way we're doing things. There are three milestone dates here, 99, 2007, and 2015 with respect to Wi-Fi. And in 1999 was the first computer company to make Wi-Fi built-in on the standard on a laptop. While laptops had been out previously, when Apple came out and built Wi-Fi in, it changed the trajectory of expectations of people like me to provide connectivity for people like you as well as for myself, and it really ramped up the emphasis of needing to have a robust Wi-Fi network. 99 was an important day because of what happened with laptops. This is not St. Lawrence, certainly, and this is probably a stock photo that was, but we've never had to deal with an issue like this from a density standpoint of everyone using the laptop at the same moment. The reality with Wi-Fi and a laptop is when you go somewhere, you open it up, you start using the network. You do your work, whether it's for 5 minutes or 5 hours, you shut it, you stop using the network. So it self-regulated itself because not everyone was using their laptop at the same time. Thus, 2007 arrived, the advent of the iPhone. While there were some handheld devices out there before, the iPhone really changed the trajectory of expectation for you and for me, because now we wanted this connectivity and we wanted it all the time. We had apps, we had social networking, we had a lot of opportunities presented itself. And we went from an environment where we walked around doing this to an environment where we walked around doing this. Please, my brief public service announcement, don't drive around doing this. All right, we don't need that. But really, a variety of things can now happen from a mobile communications platform, and it changed the trajectory of what we needed as far as the Wi-Fi network to live up to your expectations. Because while I hope that what you're doing is academic in nature, a fair bit of it, I'm a realist to know that there's a fair bit of social stuff happening also, whether it's listening to music, e-commerce, or yes, doing the selfie. Right? So you're communicating, you're using this personal technology, having a lot of fun along the way, consuming a lot of bandwidth along the way. And we really needed to move from a model that was historically built based on coverage, can I see a signal here, to a model built on density. Can I support the number of devices in a place at a single time? Because if I go back to the laptop model, not everyone had it open and used it, and when it wasn't open, it wasn't being used. Now, even though you all have your devices away, because Joe asked you so nicely to, they're checking your email, they're checking your Facebook, they're doing all sorts of things using the Wi-Fi network, even though you're not using it. So it really dramatically increased the expectations of the infrastructure. The other density issue is the way that we're now social. Here's Appleton Arena, a place where thousands of people can gather in a small, pretty confined space to do something, which is to obviously view hockey and cheer on our Saints. But the way that we experience events like this are different than they used to be, because we're experiencing it, we're not just watching it. So here was my Instagram photo on the start of the men's game versus Clarkson this year from my seat. You know, so we're experiencing it. We're using social networking to share information. So we need an infrastructure that can live up to this expectation. Purists would say, put the technology away. You're there to watch the event. Well, we're experiencing it in different ways now. And we're also doing some interesting things because for 2 years now, we've had the women's program here has done a great Saints Go social event where they've actually played a game with their Twitter handle on the back of their jersey. So not only are we allowing it, we're actually promoting it in some cases of using infrastructure as part of an event where a lot of people are there. So we have to change the way that we build and manage infrastructure. Going forward, I've talked about everything up to now. Well, so we've had some smart watches available for a while. The iWatch will be on the street in a couple of weeks. Who knows how that's going to change the marketplace. GoPro cameras now use Wi-Fi to communicate with devices, and I know we're kicking off with GoPro here. If you didn't get your ticket, please see the gentleman in the back here. And I'm only going to go there because it's available. Yes, you can get a mattress pad that is Wi-Fi enabled. You want to know your sleep pattern, your breathing pattern, your movement pattern. Again, I'm not going there, but it's capable. I don't even know what else is going to be possible, but it's all built around connectivity, communication, apps, and so we need an infrastructure that can support that. So device density, we know our student body here, we're not a huge institution, but if you see the number in the lower right-hand corner, on a typical day we have almost 11,000 unique Wi-Fi devices touching our network. All right, and the typical players are at the top with iPhone and Android and Mac OS, and we certainly get down here into the onesie, twosies, but 11,000 unique devices on a typical day when classes are in session are using the network. So we really had to address the density issue that I was talking about earlier. We keep track of statistics like this to attempt to try to keep up with the expectations. In addition to communicating with the internet and for resources, we're using wireless technology now to help for collaboration and presentation. So this is a mobile workstation in ODY. You may or may not have seen these in this laptop. If you notice, there are no wires. It's wirelessly projecting to that device. Because I don't know about you, but I present a lot. I'm always carrying around these little adapters, right? Hoping that I got the right adapter for my computer to whatever I'm going to connect to as we get to wireless presentation technology made possible by Wi-Fi networks and remove some of that and lower the barrier for collaboration complexity. Wi-Fi is not satellite-based, it's not cellular-based, it's regionally based with antennas. We have over 600 antennas spread across campus to provide Wi-Fi connectivity throughout the campus. Here are 3 photos from inside of ODY, and they're in buildings elsewhere around campus. This is on the outside of the new Kirk Douglas Hall. We actually have 3 antennas on the outside of it. We have now 6 exterior antennas. 3 of them are in our athletic fields where we can't get wired connections, but we need to be able to support streaming of content and other things. We now have them here. We're working on one outside of this building, another one between Medill and JHS, because we realize that people want to be able to get connected outside and have antennas designed to serve outside rather than just kind of getting a bleed through of an interior antenna. So we're constantly monitoring density, monitoring consumption, and building an infrastructure to attempt to keep up with those expectations. One of the ways this is done with technology is what's referred to as heat mapping software. So this is the first floor of Kirk Douglas Hall, and you can see what we've done. This helps us know where to put access points to make sure that we provided the coverage throughout the building based upon the construction materials and the density of different issues. So we're able to ensure that we have coverage inside the building, and then the 3 exterior antennas, we look where we have optimal, and then slowly degrading coverage outside the building. But this is what we do in an attempt to try to keep up with those expectations. I'm now going to spend 2 hours explaining this chart. No. One of the challenges for people like us that you don't care, well, you do care about, but you don't know about, the wireless spectrum is a spectrum of licensed and unlicensed frequency. And I'm not going to get any more technical than that. Some of it's very restricted for government purposes and other things. Some of it is a shared spectrum. Wi-Fi utilizes a shared spectrum. One of the most common frequencies that Wi-Fi utilizes is 2.4 gigahertz. You don't need to know about 2.4 gigahertz, but you know what you need to know? Microwave ovens use 2.4 gigahertz frequency also. And when I've encountered sporadic problems of Wi-Fi coming and going, 9 times out of 10, someone has a microwave oven either near the device or near the antenna, and they turn it on, and Wi-Fi goes away. And then it finishes, and Wi-Fi comes back, so it's using that same frequency. Please don't confuse your cell phone as being a microwave oven to your ear. That's not what I'm suggesting, but it's using the same frequency because it's shared. This is some of the interesting challenges when trying to provide enterprise-class service in a shared environment of wireless frequency that can't be closely regulated. So real quickly, when are we using Wi-Fi? In Sullivan Student Center, a typical day shows that we're peaking at about 400 devices about noon, tailing off through the afternoon and into the wee hours. Probably not that surprising. ODY, this is a week chart, and these were when you were on break, the Monday of classes, and then we're back in session. So typical patterns that you would expect to see as students are returned, our counts have gone through the roof. What are we doing on Wi-Fi? What are you doing on Wi-Fi? So here's a little chart. This is March 24th. This is a 24-hour snapshot. We've got 8 a.m., noon, 6 p.m., midnight, and I've represented 3 colors here of the top 3 things that we're using Wi-Fi for. Anyone want to take a quick guess? Netflix is blue. Good job. Anyone want to take a guess on the next 2? Facebook is green. You're right. And the third one? No. Snapchat. Actually, if we were to break down the top 6 on this particular day, we have an incredible Netflix consumption. We're doing Amazon stuff. I don't know what the favorite TV show on the CW is or something there, ABC, but clearly, we're using it in a variety of social and interesting ways to consume information, and so I thought you'd get a kick out of that. But Wi-Fi is only part of the equation. That's because we're connected to something, the internet, right? This is a visualization of the internet, a network of networks, because you're going to these various locations to get connectivity. And while having a great Wi-Fi network may be good, and having enough antennas and addressing the density and making sure we don't allow microwaves, the reality is we need bandwidth to connect. In 2006, we had 30 megabits of connectivity to support the entire campus. This year, we're at 1,500 megabits. That's a 50-fold increase from the year before the iPhone came out to now. And this is only going to continue to grow as we live up to the expectations of you trying to consume this content in a variety of ways and what we're using academically and administratively. So we continue to monitor this, and when we can, expand it to better align your needs. So the future of Wi-Fi, what do I think is going to happen? Well, we certainly want more or less. I care about the less portion so that I can get you more. We want it faster and easier to use. We certainly I want it safe and secure, and hopefully you do too. And if you don't know you want it, trust me, you want it safe and secure. You want no interference, and we're making some progress on that, but in a shared spectrum, it's not exact science. We want it always compatible with devices that, frankly, we don't know what's coming out tomorrow that we don't know the compatibility matrix of yet. But this was an attempt to try to help you understand the complex world that is Wi-Fi, and trust me, we're doing a lot to have it meet your needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin, very much, and we look forward to the uninterrupted Wi-Fi in the years to come, thanks to your fine work. Our next student presenter is here to share some of his research that he did during a fellowship with Dr. Michael Shuckers. His devotion to the sport of hockey, coupled with his talents in computer science, helped propel his work to new heights. He and Dr. Shuckers are changing the way that statistics and analytics are done in the hockey world. So let's crash the net with this Messina, New York native. Please welcome from the class of 2015, Jake Hurlbut.
All right, perfect. So just real quick, Justin, probably just crashing in this, me making your like Joe said, my name is Jake Hurlbut, and I'm a senior here at St. Lawrence. And this presentation is going to be about 2 things. One is going to be kind of my little bit of a life journey type of thing. And it's going to lead into some of the research I spent last summer doing with Dr. Shuckers. So, growing up, most kids who are sports fans have athlete. You know, if you're a hockey fan, it might have been Mario Lemieux. You know, today maybe Sidney Crosby. Baseball fan, it could be Derek Jeter. But I had a pretty unique experience growing up because my favorite athlete was this guy. That's my dad. My dad played professional hockey for 14 years, and so I had the privilege of living with your favorite athlete, somebody you look up to. And so here's where that jersey is actually hanging on my wall here at school. And so growing up, I always had people asking me, "Oh, Jake, you gonna be just like your dad and play hockey, go play hockey in the NHL?" And for a while, I said, "Oh, maybe, but the funny thing is I never really played hockey. I love sport; it's my favorite sport, but I never really played it." And so I eventually kept letting people down. I said, "No, you're not going to do anything with hockey." Growing up, and so that dream kind of went away a little bit. But I found other things to do. Growing up, I made my own path, if you will. And then I came here, and I still had hockey, but I picked up the computer science major along the way. And so I had these two separate parts of my life. I had technology and computer science side of things, and I had hockey. I'm still a hockey fan. I helped out with our men's ice hockey team weekends, and so but these two things never really came together until I was approached last fall, 2 falls ago. No, 1 fall, but until I was approached by Dr. Shuckers to work on his statistical rating of hockey players called the hockey rating. He needed somebody who knew both of these, and I was that guy. And so I had a unique opportunity to bring both of those together, much in the way that you bring things together in classes every day here at St. Lawrence, even completely different disciplines. And so what is total hockey rating? Well, total hockey rating, real briefly, is a comprehensive statistical rating of both forwards and defensemen in the NHL. And it was created in 2012, I believe, by Dr. Shuckers and Jim Kerr, who graduated in 2012 as part of his SYE, and it kind of spiraled from there into what it is now, a paper that was presented at MIT's Horwitz conference a few years ago. And so total hockey rating takes all these things you see here behind me into account. Face-off, hits, giveaways, basically all the events that happen in an NHL game. Throughout the course of the season, there's over 300,000 of these events that occur. And so in a nutshell, what happens is each event is given probably in a league with only scored in the next 20 seconds of play. You can see all this stuff up here. And there's some math that goes on underneath of it, and eventually that leads to a way you can evaluate players based on how good they are at preventing goals and how good they are at generating goals and thus wins for their team. So where did I come in? I'm not a stats guy. I'm a computer science guy. So to do this, you saw that there's 300,000 events in an NHL season. That's a lot. When you start getting more and more events, things start getting pretty complex. And so this graph you see here behind me is the runtime for the total hockey rating calculations. That yellow line is, you can see, the white line represents certain benchmarks. So about 1,230 games right there is one full season, and that took a little over an hour and a half to run when I got started. And then it goes up from there. Eventually, you're looking at well over a day if you start processing all the data we have available. And so that makes things rather difficult for Dr. Shuckers to do rapid research on. You kind of like to set it and forget it and let it run for a day. And so that's where I came in. I did some, I'm not going to bore you with the technical details of what I did, but I did some fancy computer science tricks, and I made it a lot faster. I'm going to tell you how fast in just a minute, but it wasn't that easy. There was a lot of frustration along the way, and I learned a lot about computer science, a lot about dealing with frustration. There was one day, about a day before I had a major breakthrough in the code where I thought this was not going to work. I hit this nasty bug. I spent the previous 48 hours slaving away, knowing I was close, and then all of a sudden this train came screeching to a halt. But nonetheless, I was able to do this. This blue line is the code after I got done with it. I actually had it running much faster than that, but I had to slow it down so we could do some other stuff with it. So now it runs in less than half an hour, whereas before we do Dr. Shuckers to do all sorts of stuff with it, and I'm still working with them to this day on some of those things. And so that's in a nutshell what I did. But what did I gain out of this? I kind of want to go back to my initial, what I opened with my whole dream of hockey. This experience, it brought together two things that I didn't think were going to come together for me. Is my love for technology and computer science and my love for hockey. But this opened my eyes to, there's actually something you can do where you can take two things and combine them together, much like you can here at St. Lawrence. You can major in something and minor in something else. So I'm a computer science major, but a history minor. Two completely unrelated things, but sometimes that finds some overlap. And so I found some overlap here, and I really enjoyed it. It's actually opened my eyes to some potential careers in sport management, as a field that I was interested in as a child growing up. And so it's sort of making some dreams come true. So I guess in the spirit of Laurentian for Life Week, always remember that liberal arts are more powerful than you think, and you can really bring two cool things together like I did. And I really encourage you, by the way, students in the room, to do summer research if you can. It's a really great experience. You live with some really awesome people like Mo and Maggie back there, who I lived with over the summer. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jake. Jake Hurlbut, everybody. Give him a round of applause. Great job. All right, we're going to move right along here. First, just a shameless plug. As we talk about Laurentian for Life Week, we do want all the students to know that tomorrow we will be giving away a lot of free swag brought to you by Victory Promotions as part of Casino Night. And so we hope you will stop by as part of our Laurentian Connect tomorrow on April 1st. That's not an April Fool's Day joke. On Thursday, we will have Laurentian Give, and we will have Thank Flu in the room, and a chance for you to write letters to alumni and donors for their generosity to make your experience possible. And on Friday, we'll have Laurentian Celebrate, honoring St. Lawrence's 159th Charter Day, and we will have a green screen set up out in the Student Center and a chance for you to make a movie in front of a green screen and a backdrop wishing St. Lawrence a happy birthday message. We'll then have a 4K run walk through campus. That registration starts at 2:30. We'll have T-shirts and all sorts of giveaways at that event as well. 2:30 registration right in the quad. All right, our first faculty presenter tonight is a neuroscientist who studies things I honestly won't even attempt to pronounce. She earned her Bachelor of Science in Psychobiology from Binghamton University and her PhD in Physiology from Wayne State University. A dedicated Laurentian in her own right, she consistently uses students in her areas of research, like Jake Hurlbut did with Dr. Shuckers, is a faculty advisor for the Biology Honorary, and is the campus coordinator for the Denmark Study Abroad program. Presenting nanoparticles and neuroprotection, like I said, please welcome Dr. Anna Estevez.
I usually don't have a problem with as my students. So before I get started, I just wanted to give you a little bit more of my background. As I was finishing up my postdoctoral training and I was thinking about the next step in my career, I had to figure out what I was going to do next. And I know that I love teaching and I had a passion for teaching, so I knew that I wanted to pursue a position where teaching was a primary mission. But I also enjoyed research, and I knew that I love the aspect of discovering things that are unknown that comes with doing research. So I wanted to be in a position where I could do both of those things. I also knew that research is a really powerful tool as a teaching mechanism. That if you have an undergraduate that's doing research, just like Jake just described, that you get a lot of in-depth experience with a specific topic. You get a lot of hands-on experience. You get a lot of frustration sometimes. That happens to all of us. But you also get the ability to work collaboratively and teamwork. And we do that a lot in science. And so when the position became available at St. Lawrence, I thought it was a perfect fit for me. I was able to combine my interest in research and teaching and a small liberal arts college. And as you can see, it's been a perfect fit. I'm on my 10th year here and counting. So as I was getting ready to make my transition, I had a lot of people ask me, are you sure that you can actually do research at a small liberal arts college? And I was a little offended by that. And those of you who know me, my reaction is like, what do you mean I can't do that? What do you mean you can't do high-impact research at a small liberal arts college? And what I'm going to show you today is the product of some of that research that I've done collaboratively with faculty members in St. Lawrence, but also faculty members outside of St. Lawrence, like at Clarkson and Dartmouth. But importantly, undergraduate research students. All of this work would not be possible if we didn't have a team of dedicated students that would help us with it. So I will take you a little bit through what we've done. So our research is in a topic called neurodegeneration, and that's a long word. Neuro means neurons or nerve cells, and degeneration means progressive death. And so there are a lot of conditions that afflict humans that involve the death of neurons, that involve the death of the cells in your brain. And here are a few of them. You might recognize some of them. So stroke and brain trauma sometimes happens when somebody has a concussion. They're acute disorders, but these other ones listed here, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis. I know some of you know about ALS because a bunch of you did the bucket challenge last year, so you'll know a little bit about this. All of these are neurodegenerative disorders. In other words, the neurons of the brain die. In some cases, you have specific neurons that die in small parts of the brain, but in other cases, it's a global problem where a lot of the neurons in the brain die, and that's a very case in point is Alzheimer's disease. So, for example, here's a picture of a brain, a control brain that shows these big bumps that you see here. We have a technical term, they're called gyri, and then you see the spaces in between those, the little valleys, they're called sulci. If you look at that, and then in contrast, look at a brain of somebody who died from Alzheimer's disease, you can tell that it's a very stark contrast. That those bumps look a lot thinner, and the spaces in between those bumps look a lot wider. So there's a lot more empty space, and that's because a lot of neurons have died. So you've had a progressive loss of a profound number of neurons in the brains of these individuals. One of the, what research has shown us is that a key component of the process of neurodegeneration involves these molecules called free radicals. So free radicals are atoms with unpaired electrons. And as it's shown here, this atom here wants to have a pair. And in the process of trying to find a pair, it basically destabilizes other stable molecules. And so these free radicals are highly reactive, and they destabilize cell membranes, and they destabilize cell components. And in that way, they induce neuronal death. They induce nerve death. Our strategy is one of neuroprotection. And the idea is, can we devise a mechanism, can we make up a strategy where even in the presence of these harmful free radicals, we can save those nerve cells from dying? Is there a way that we can do that? And one of the most prominent strategies is the use of what are called antioxidants. Antioxidants are molecules that can neutralize these free radicals. So what they do is that they donate an electron to those free radicals so that they become more stable, but at the same time, those antioxidants don't become radicals themselves. Okay, so they're able to neutralize the bad guys, and they're able to still remain stable at the same time. So you guys probably have heard of antioxidants because everybody tells you eat your brightly colored fruits and veggies. And one of the reasons why they tell you that is because these bright colors, these bright pigments, have endogenous or natural antioxidants that are found in strawberries and blueberries and all these brightly colored vegetables. And in fact, there's been a lot of clinical trials that have been done trying to see whether any of these natural antioxidants can actually help with disorders such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. However, the results have been mixed. They haven't been a slam dunk or as we would have hoped. So we still need better antioxidants that are able to mitigate the problems with the free radicals. So are there novel antioxidants that could be used to decrease the free radical damage that we see in these types of disorders? And I'm here to tell you yes. So one of these novel antioxidants that we're working with are called serum alkyl nanoparticles. Cerium is element 58 in the periodic table, and basically when you combine it with oxygen in a specific synthetic reaction, what you get is the formation of what are called serum oxide nanoparticles. So you've probably heard this word before, nanoparticles. Nano means small. How small is small? Well, if you think about a meter, a nanometer is a billionth of a meter, so it's really, really small. And to give you more perspective, here's a nanometer scale, and I thought I'd use something that maybe you might be able to connect with, maybe a tennis ball here. So this is a tennis ball all the way down to the size of a water molecule. Nanometer, or the nanoparticles that we work with, are about the size of what 1,000,000 times smaller than what a period would look like to you on a written page. The size of that punctuation mark, is 1 million times bigger than the nanoparticles that we work with. So that's really, really small. So what makes these guys so special? Well, they have multiple properties that we think make them special. One of them is that they're more potent. Even though they're really small, they're actually more potent than those antioxidants that we find in some of the food-derived products. They're also what we call regenerative. What that means is that when these antioxidants sort of try to neutralize the free radicals, they can neutralize one free radical, but they can continue to neutralize other ones. So they're regenerative in nature. They're also long-lasting. And the reason, and that's a really important fact, because that helps us give you a lower dose of these antioxidants than you would need of the other kind. So the fact that they stay in the tissue for a longer period of time makes them very useful. So now I've told you the point. You want to see the data. You want to see whether this works. So the big question is, can serum oxide nanoparticles mitigate the harmful effects of free radicals in neurodegenerative disease states? And we've done this with several models, but I'll show you the results of one model. So what we've done is we've cultured brain slices from mice, and we've had them in the culture in the lab, and we expose them to stroke-like conditions. And we have a special dye molecule that tells us if the cells are dead or if they're alive. Because if the cells are dead, this molecule glows really brightly, and if the cells are alive, it doesn't glow as much. So it's a nice, simple indicator of whether the cells are alive or not. So here is brain slices under control conditions. You can see that you see lots of blues and greens. That's really low level of glowing, very low levels of cell death. So that's a pretty healthy slice. When we incubate the slice under conditions that mimic a stroke, what we see is really bright colors. And those bright colors represent high level of indicator, which says there's a lot of dying cells in here. And so you see those yellows and oranges, that indicates cell death. So the big box that's missing here is what happens if we incubate those slices under stroke-like conditions, but at the same time incubate them with the serum oxide nanoparticles. Can those particles reduce that cell death? And the answer is yes. So as you can see here, you see a lot more blues and purples, more similar to the control condition than what you see under stroke-like conditions. When we expose those slices to stroke, but we add the particles at the same time. So what we can see is that serum oxide nanoparticles do decrease stroke-induced neurodegeneration. This is a study that was published several years ago, and I'm showing you the cover of that study to point out a couple of things. One, again, this was a collaborative project. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just me in my lab. It was also Joe Hurlbut in the biology department and a couple of colleagues from Clarkson and Dartmouth. But then everybody else that you see here, starting from Suzanne Pritchard all the way to Will Mosenthal, those are all undergraduate students that helped us in our work. We wouldn't have been able to do this without the dedication of our team. We've done this in other models of neurodegeneration, like a multiple sclerosis model, and we've seen very similar protective effects of using these nanoparticles. And I'm not showing you the data for those studies, but I'll show you the team of students that worked on that. This is a pretty big team, and we've done a lot of work to try to progress the field further. So again, students, undergraduate students, integral to the work that we do. So I'll bring you back to the original question that I started with, which was when I was getting ready to transition to St. Lawrence, somebody asked me, can you really do research at a small liberal arts college? And I hope to have convinced you that absolutely you can. And I'll bring you this quote back, and I'm showing you the U highlighted in red because I want to say, you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do this. Just like Jake did it, just like Brittany is doing, just like Cliff is doing. Any of you can approach one of your professors if you're interested in doing research, and if their research aligns with yours, you can be part of a project. Just email them. If you see that you have similarities, have a meeting with them. You never know what might develop. Thank you.
She's going to do two. She's going to do two.
I'm going to try to teach Maddie up there.
Oh, she's going. Go with these. The t-shirt talk is here. On Estevez, everyone. One more round of applause for Matt. As we talk about the t-shirt here, the Laurentian t-shirt, we also want to point out to those watching at home, we have a raffle here. And Chelsea Lloyd, you are the winner of a free Laurentian for Life Week t-shirt. We will get that out and mailed to you down in Georgia. Congratulations to you, and thank you for watching this evening here at the Laurentian Lightning Chat Series. Our next presenter is coming off one of the best football seasons in St. Lawrence University history. A master's graduate from St. Lawrence in 1995, he guided the program to a Liberty League championship in 2010, his first season on campus, and coached the Saints to consecutive 7-win seasons for the first time in nearly 40 years these past 2 seasons. He's won the Liberty League Coaching Staff of the Year Award as well as the Athletic Department's Bernie McKinnon Coach of the Year Award. Presenting Leadership in Action, please welcome Mark Raymond.
I love the weekend portion of the program. Many of you don't know this, but out of college I wanted to be a doctor. But after a meeting with my advisor, he told me the only way you're getting into med school is as a cadaver. As you can see, we're going to talk a little bit about leadership. And so this question is, what is leadership? Leadership means different things to different people. I can probably ask 10 people here for the answer to that question. You can probably get 10 different answers. But the widely scrutinized subject, there's a lot of different theories, a lot of different ideas, and a lot of different faces that have become case studies throughout history of what leadership is all about. So when I talk about faces, for me as a football coach, the first one that comes to mind is this guy. All right, this is Vince Lombardi. To me, probably the greatest football coach ever. A guy who was a master motivator and someone that would use psychology to get his best out of each player. Next, some of you might recognize George Patton. Okay, a brilliant military strategist who was revered for his bravery and his command under great stress and pressure. Next, Martin Luther King obviously inspired millions with his charisma and his dedication to a cause. And lastly, not a great picture, but what I want to show because of the passion people have had for her as Pat Summitt, a coach known for her, sheer intensity, toughness, and a will to demand the best as everyone. And those kind of put a face on leadership. And although they all had different styles and different ways of getting things done, they all had results. Now, I mean results, because I mean this, okay, which is how I define leadership. It's the ability to organize a group of people, all right, to achieve a common goal. And that's what we're trying to do. For myself as coach, for George Patton as a military leader, we're trying to get people to put their personal goals aside for the greater good, to do something great as a unit rather than just as an individual. Because for me, my opinion is there's nothing like accomplishing something as a team. I worked a short time when I was out of coaching, working for a paycheck. That's how I put it. And it just didn't fulfill me like being part of a team. So for me, I think nothing is better than accomplishing something together. So how do you do that? I have a list of things that I've kind of accumulated over the years as a coach that I think are essential principles in being an effective leader. Number one, be loyal. Okay, loyalty breeds trust. Okay, and loyalty has to happen at the top. If you can't get loyalty at the top, then it's tough for everybody else in that organization to embrace it. Okay, lead by example. Okay, and love your team unconditionally. That means never throwing anybody under the bus. All right, there's times in the media, times with other people, where you never want to say something bad about someone else on your team. Right? You always discuss that with each other. Next, all right, have a vision and have a plan. When you're sitting down with your organization for the first time, whether it be a team, whether it be anything, a classroom, you name it, you've got to have a plan. When you're sitting across a group of people, you need to have a vision, a goal, a direction that you're going to take them to. If you don't have that, you're just drifting along with no purpose. Have a plan. Be clear, be concise, so everybody in that room knows, hey, this is where we're going, guys. Hop on, come with me, I will take you there. Set expectations. All right, this is very important. Anybody who works within that organization has to know his or her role. All right, accountability is imperative in any organization. You have to know when things happen, good or bad. All right, who's to give credit to, who's to give blame. People want direction. Okay, give it to them. All right? It's so important that you lay out each and every expectation for somebody in your organization. If they're not meeting it, then you're going to have to discuss it with them. If they are, you can discuss it with them. If it's not clear, again, you're just moving along. Lead from the front. Now, this is kind of a common term that gives people have different interpretations of it. For me, it's never asking someone to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. And a classic example of this is a few years ago, I was working for a guy who was at the top of his profession. All right, he was a national champion. He could be a Hall of Fame coach, just a well-respected guy. And I walked into work one day and went into the restroom, and there he was cleaning the bathroom. Okay, and I'm saying, so why is he cleaning the bathroom? And the reason he was cleaning it is because it needed to be cleaned. All right, and he was going to do it. From that day on, there wasn't one thing I wasn't going to do for that guy, because I knew there wasn't a thing that he asked me to do that he wouldn't do himself. So don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. And he also said no job is too small. Okay, do whatever you can. And I told Joe this before, and you get to listen to it. Do not sit in your ivory tower. Okay, nobody wants to see somebody point down and tell them what to do. It's like you're doing it yourself. Always lead from the front, right, Joe?
That's right, Coach.
Absolutely. People don't follow the title. I think this is important. People don't care if your office is in the corner, all right? You got the bars on your shoulders, all right? You got the president in front of your name. They're not going to follow you because you have that title, all right? They're going to follow what you're all about. They're going to follow your integrity, all right? Your honesty, your loyalty, your work ethic, all right? The activity for the subject. That's what they're going to follow. Just because you have a title doesn't entitle you to people respecting you or are going to follow you. Okay? They're going to follow what it is about you that endears you to them. Okay? Not just the title. Next, never be the smartest person in the room. And of all these, this is the easiest for me. Okay? Surround yourself with great people. Now, this one I got from Jack Welch. Everybody know who Jack Welch is? All right, Jack Welch was the CEO of GE. I know Mr. Horwitz doesn't like GE. Okay. However, Jack Welch was a very successful CEO, and his idea was to surround himself with the best possible people he can. Okay. Don't be afraid to get in arguments. Don't be afraid of conflict. I thought out there, conflict is good. Okay. Have people to challenge you. Now, with this in mind, you got to understand. Oftentimes, the most difficult people to manage are high-achieving people. So you got to understand, with that, very bright, ambitious people are going to challenge you as a leader. And that's only going to make you better. So literally and figuratively, don't be afraid not to be the smartest person in the world. Again, there's a book written called The Best and Brightest. Everybody familiar with that book, Best and Brightest? Okay, it's about John F. Kennedy, how he put his cabinet together. They searched all over the country trying to find the best and brightest people to fill his cabinet so they could have the best administration ever. Don't be afraid to surround yourself with great people. Next, okay, this is about care. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. This is about being compassionate, okay? This is about taking genuine interest in people in your organization. In order to be an effective leader, you have to know what makes people tick. For Joe, I had to walk in and yell, Joe! Okay? For Dan's over here, hey Dan, can you do this for me? All right? Some people need to be kicked in the butt, right? And some people need to be, cajoled a little bit. Put your arm around them. See how they feel. Okay? A lot of things go on in a person's life. Take genuine interest. How's your kids? How's your parents? How's this? How's that? Know something about it. Right? So when their job is not being effective as it normally is, maybe there's something bothering them. All right? You won't know that unless you care about it. And people sense that. All right? They won't work that extra hour for you. They won't do that little extra thing for you if you don't think you care about it. They think you're just another cog in their machine. Shoot, they can care less. Never stop learning. Very important. The minute you think you know it all or you know too much, guess what? All right, the world's going to slap you in the face and tell you otherwise. Okay? Never stop learning. whether it's inside your workplace or outside your workplace, improve your knowledge and skills. Okay? That will always give momentum to your organization to move forward. And a great story about this is, I don't know, some of you guys know who Preston Carlisle is. Okay? He's a local attorney. His son is a basketball coach for the Dallas Mavericks. A few years back, they won the World Championship. Okay? 2 weeks after that championship, he was at a seminar, okay, out in California about getting better. Right? At that seminar, people like Oprah Winfrey was there. Okay? So here's a world champion at the very top of his profession, right? Going to a seminar to get better. Okay? And at that seminar is Oprah Winfrey, okay? One of the most successful business people in the world. All right? So you can see just what it takes to not only get to the top, but stay at the top. So always keep learning. You never know enough. Okay? Be visible. All right? A few years back, you know, I thought it was important that I kind of pulled myself away from the team a little bit. I was always around meddling doing this. All right? So I kind of was a little bit less busy. Okay? I found out later that's probably the worst thing I could do. All right? Be visible. Let them know you're always there. You're always watching. You're always taking interest in what they're doing and how the team is progressing. And also, be visible in the community. Be visible on campus. Be visible in the lunchroom. Be visible in places where people can see you and know that you're always paying attention to what's best for your team. Okay? That is so important. All right? They want to see you work ethic. Right? They want to know that you are working just as hard as them, if not harder. All right? Lastly, okay, love what you're doing. All right? Passion is infectious. All right? I am very fortunate to work in a profession where I love what I do. Okay? I love coaching football. It's something that I get up every day and I can't wait for the challenge that's going to be ahead of me. Right? Hopefully, you guys will be as fortunate to do something like that. And I know passion doesn't always pay the bills sometimes. All right? But if you're fortunate enough to work in a field that you love doing, I promise you, you will be a better worker, you'll be a better leader, okay? Because that passion will just radiate off you and affect everyone in your organization to make them excited to go to work and to make this team better. So believe me, passion is what it's all about, to make you be a better leader, a better worker, a better everything. So if you're that fortunate as I am, and Joe, all right, believe me, it'll pay dividends. I believe that's it. Thank you very much. Hopefully you learned something tonight.
Coach Raymond, everybody, give him a round of applause. He's not wrong. He did have to yell out to me. My Irish power was a great call. So he did have to yell out to me often in working with Coach Ray over the years. It has been a pleasure for the most part. Our final presenter this evening is the Charles A. Dana Professor of Economics and Department Chair here at St. Lawrence. He completed his MA and PhD in Economics at George Mason University and received his AB in Economics and in Philosophy and Economics from the University of Michigan. He's written 2 books, and his presentation tonight is based on his upcoming 3rd book, which will be published this fall. A regular contributor on TV and radio programs, he's here tonight to present Unsupervised Play as a School for Peaceful Conflict Resolution. Please welcome Dr. Steve Horwitz.
Good evening, everyone. I feel like I ought to be running down the field tackling somebody. Thanks for coming tonight. What I want to talk about this evening is, again, unsupervised play, and unsupervised childhood play in particular, as a school for peaceful conflict resolution. And I want to start by pointing out that we live in a world full of potential conflict. One of the first things we do in Econ 100 on perhaps the very first day of class is we talk about the fact that resources are scarce. We can't get all the things that we want. And we have to figure out some way to solve that problem. And ideally, we want to solve those problems of conflicts over resources, over getting the things we want, as peacefully as we can. We'd like to solve them without coercing each other. So one of the ways I want to start tonight is by sort of suggesting that we can think about these issues the following way. We can talk about the fact that there's always this potential for conflict. The question is, how are we going to deal with this conflict? We can cooperate, or we can coerce people. Okay? And if we think about cooperation here, one of the ways that we cooperate with people, of course, is we exchange. Right? We think about the marketplace. This is what we teach in economics, that through the market, through exchange, people can find ways to socially cooperate with each other to get the goods and services that they want, and to figure out who gets what and how and all those kinds of things. Okay? But markets aren't the only way to do this. We can also cooperate through agreement. Sometimes communities come together, solve problems in different ways, and I want to come back to that in just a moment. The alternative, of course, to cooperation is coercion. And the sort of most fundamental way we think about coercion is government. That's what government does. Whether you like it or not, however much you think it should do, at the end of the day, government coerces people. Right? I don't have to buy something from Apple or Google, but if I don't pay my taxes, the guy's gun comes and takes it away. Right? But there's also private coercion, of course, too. When people can't solve problems peacefully among each other, they may turn to private coercion. We might physically aggress against each other, we might steal from each other. And what I want to argue is that it's a better world. We can solve these conflicts as much as possible through cooperation, through exchange in markets, or through some kind of community agreement. We often think about these issues in terms of just market versus government, right? That's all that we have. Those are the options in front of us. But in fact, most of the sites for potential conflict in our lives every day are things that really don't fit into either category. There's all kinds of little moments throughout the day where we have conflict with each other. You see on the screen, Elinor Ostrom. Elinor Ostrom won the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2009. She's the only woman to have ever won the prize. I think it's interesting that she's not even an economist. She's a political scientist. Right? But Lynn Ostrom's work and the work of her husband, Vincent Ostrom, talked a lot about, I like to call these things Ostrom moments. These little moments in our lives where we have conflict and we have to figure out how to resolve them. Who should clean up the coffee maker in the office? Should you, in the dorm lounge, who should be cleaning it up? Let's not even talk about the bathroom. Whose parking space is that? Two cars come at the same time. How do we know whose space that is? We have all these little conflicts all the time. And we have to figure out how to solve them. What Lynn did in her work was to go out and look at how people actually did this. And she was particularly interested, by the way, in natural resources, what we call common property resources, like overfishing and fisheries. And what she discovered is that communities have tons of different ways of solving these problems. That people can come together without really markets, but not really government either. And the ability to solve these problems peacefully, I think, is crucial to living in a kind of civilized, peaceful society that minimizes coercion. But the question is, how do we figure out how to do this? How do we figure out how to develop rules and norms and practices? How do we figure out how to cooperate with each other? This is not, we're not born with it. This is a skill that we have to learn. What I want to argue is that figuring these sorts of things out, figuring out how to resolve conflicts among us in this sort of way, is something that we learn through unsupervised play in childhood. This is a wonderful book called We Learn. The subtitle, Why Unleashing the Instinct of Play Will Make Our Children Happier, More Self-Reliant, and Better Students for Life. Right? By a guy named Peter Gray, a psychologist. And he did his own research, but also summarizes the research in psychology. It shows that when young kids are allowed to play by themselves without parents supervising, in fact, they're better off. They learn how to develop these skills of negotiation, these problem-solving skills, all the things we're talking about. All you have to do is think about a pickup baseball game, right? Where, look, there's no parents in this picture whatsoever. Right? That's awesome. What do kids learn in something like this? Well, they learn they got to figure out divide up teams. They got to figure out what the rules are, what's first base, what's second base, what's a home run, what happens if the car comes by when you're playing the ball in the street. Right? You got to negotiate all those rules, and you have to find ways to cooperate. The last thing you want to do is to piss somebody off in this game and have them leave. And all of these skills are the things, everything you need to know you learned on the playground. Right? And so this sort of unsupervised play is crucial for kids learning to develop these skills at negotiation and conflict resolution. The problem, of course, is that we now have a generation of parents who are afraid to let their kids play by themselves. We have overblown fears about parenting that lead us to the world of Helen Lovejoy. Right? We were overly concerned about child safety. Childhood, by the way, has never been safer for kids than it is today. Yet we're afraid of every little thing. And the result of this is that we're afraid to let kids play in this way. Right? I like to call this corner solution parenting. If you've taken any economics, it might be kind of familiar. Right? But if we think about the trade-off here between safety and taking risks and getting the rewards that go in with those risks, what we've seen happen in parenting is we moved all the way to the corner up there, where all we care about is safety, and we're not willing to let kids take risks to earn any kind of reward. And one particular reward they can learn is exactly this set of skills that we're talking about. Instead, we wrap them up in bubble wrap, and we send them out into the world. The problem with this is, to put it in economic terms, is that young people don't get to experience the profit and loss that come with real interaction with other kids. If we as parents keep bailing our kids out or preventing them from ever taking risks and having to figure out how to solve these problems, and sometimes solving those problems are messy. Kids yell and scream at each other, feelings get hurt. That's part of it. If we prevent them from experiencing that and experiencing the losses that come with it, we prevent them from learning these skills that they need to have. And the evidence from Gray's work and other people is that this is crucial to human development, the ability to learn these skills through unsupervised play. So what's the consequence? Well, one consequence we see here on campus, I think, is the group project problem that faculty face. We assign students group projects, and frequently, maybe not this bad, but they end in disaster. Often because students have difficulty negotiating who's going to be there when. There's always some guy trying to free ride, another guy thinks he knows it all, right? There you go, Mark. Okay? So all these people students trying to negotiate through these situations, the question is, do they have the skills to do this? Have we given them the skills? And so for one place we see on campus where this struggle happens is here. I think there's two other places on campus we see this struggle happen. Another place is roommate conflict. It's true that this generation has largely grown up without sharing a room with a brother or sister, right? So that has minimized your ability to negotiate these conflicts. But even among those who can, right, to the extent that you haven't had that experience very much, or that your parents have intervened in that experience to prevent you from solving those problems yourself, right? You simply haven't developed those skills. Students haven't developed those skills often. And so frequently what happens is we see these roommate conflicts that probably don't need to be there in the first place if communication and the ability to settle these things between each other was better. And the result is we frequently call in external authorities to solve the problem. In the group work, right, the professor has to get involved to figure out how to solve the situation. In the roommate conflict, we call the CA, or we call the RC, or worse, right? Or we get our parents involved in works, right? Trying to solve these problems instead of having the skills and ability to work them out. I actually think there's a third place we see this on campus, and this one's a little more controversial. If you're following events on campus and in the news, you know that one of the hot topics right now is the idea of affirmative consent in sexual relationships. The concern people have that unless consent is explicit, right, we're going to run into issues of rape and sexual assault and so on. And I wonder whether or not this isn't part of the same problem. Whether these very skills at communicating, and often in challenging and difficult situations, but figuring out what are the rules we're working by, what are the limits here, what have I consented to, what haven't I consented to. In some sense, those skills are not any different from the skills you learn playing pickup baseball in school. You have to figure out how to keep both parties happy, you have to figure out how to respect both parties, and you have to figure out those rules. And if kids can't develop those skills elsewhere, they come into the world, particularly out into the world of college by themselves for the first time, find themselves in these intimate situations and simply don't know how to deal with it. And again, that's not blaming the victim, right? That's simply saying we don't have the skills. It may be that more people in this generation don't have the skills to figure these things out. And the result is we're looking for solutions like affirmative consent, like bringing in various kinds of authorities to solve these problems. And I think that's unfortunate, right? Because if we want to live in a society that minimizes coercion, that encourages people to solve problems on their own, they need the skills to do that. And again, one way that they develop those skills is through unsupervised play in childhood. And so if we want to live in a liberal society, a society in which people are able to solve their own problems, we have to give kids the scope to learn the skills at doing that. If we continue to prevent them from doing so, we're going to continue to see a society in which people want coercion to solve their problems, in which human relationships are coarser, are more mean, simply because we don't have the skills to figure these things out in peaceful cooperation. So the best advice I can give both to parents out there and to young people who are thinking about being parents, let them play. Give your kids the opportunity to play and learn on their own. Childhood's never been safer. The skills they learn by playing are skills that will last them a lifetime and will make the world a better place. Thank you all very much.
You should toss them out, Steve. Toss them out.
I want a cannon. Not my cannon.
There's next clarity. We got to give next clarity a T-shirt cannon here in student life. Dr. Steve Horwitz, everybody, give him a round of applause. I want to thank all 6 of our presenters tonight. We really appreciate everything you guys did in the preparation. You were outstanding. I hope that all of you enjoyed our first series of Laurentian Lightning Chat. And at this time, I would ask our 2 ticket holders in the back, Bobby Adam and Jake Danforth, to please come up here to the front as we prepare to pull the winning ticket for a GoPro camera donated by the Brewer Bookstore. We appreciate all the support that Kevin Collin gave us for this as well. Let's give it up for our ticket takers as well, Bobby and Jake tonight. And let's pull up that winning ticket. Everybody here, pull out your red. It's a red ticket for those keeping track at home. The winner of the GoPro camera in attendance tonight is ticket 9922135. That's 9922135. Who's going home with a GoPro? We have a winner. We have to present our winner with your GoPro camera. We do have a few extra T-shirts here, which we'll raffle off as well. And we will pull some tickets here quickly to come up and get a T-shirt. We've got 9922024 for a T-shirt, 024, final 3 digits. We got a winner in the back. Another winner. We've got ticket number 922130. 922130. Going once. 130. Going twice. Okay. Sold. New ticket. Final 3 digits, 054, 922054. A winner here in the middle row section to my left. And at this point, this will be our last ticket, and Bobby's going to throw them away so you guys can get rolling. 922104. 104, final ticket. We have a winner from Ellie Williams, the women's hockey team, collecting her Laurentian Lightning shirt. Jake and Bobby will toss off the final. We hope to have you all here tomorrow. It is Laurentian Connect here, 7:30, casino night. We'll have more shirts and gear for the rest of you. Thank you very much for coming and enjoy your night.